This month was a bit of a disaster. Everything I said I was going to read, ignored. My reading prompts for the month, ignored. I'm literally entering my reputation era of booktube right now. Like, Angus can't come to the phone right now. Why? Because he's too busy not fucking reading anything. That's why. Hey guys, my name is Angus and today we're going to be going through my stats and my wrap up for June and maybe doing my TBR reaping for July. I don't know anymore, considering I didn't even do what I was supposed to do last month. What's the point of me doing this if future Angus is just gonna fuck it up and not even do what past Angus is saying he's gonna do? Like, ugh. So, in case you haven't caught on, I failed my reading prompt for last month. Most of the books I said in my TBR I was gonna read, I didn't even touch. So all in all, was a pretty bad month. I didn't read as much as I usually do. I don't know, part of me does want to kind of go off the rails with my reading and just read whatever I feel like reading. It would be like nice kind of freedom, but I do enjoy doing these kinds of things and having the like fun TBR jars. So we'll see. All right, anyway, today I've got a little bit of a TBR planned. We'll see what happens. It's kind of chaos, but you guys know what we do. So I'm just gonna jump into it. We're gonna start with my reading stats for June, for last month. So, I only read 8 books in June and a total of 2,937 pages, which is less than last month and I think the least amount of pages I've read in a month so far this year, but it does bring my total for the year to 55 books and 20,381 pages, which means I'm officially halfway done with my reading goal for this year. We're 5 books ahead of schedule still, which is fantastic. So even though this month wasn't a great reading month, things are still looking pretty good overall. Okay, here's where things get embarrassing though. In June, I read 8 fiction books and 0 non-fiction books. So this graph is pretty boring. As I said before, I was meant to read a scientific book this month. I was gonna read Sapiens, but I just never got around to it. So yeah, compared to last month, obviously it's pretty straightforward. A ratio of 1 to 0, love that for me. I think if I want to boost this ratio, I need to stick to my guns in terms of what non-fiction I actually enjoy, which is mostly true crime and current affairs books. And I think that should be a priority for me moving forward if I want to improve this part of my stats. My average star rating for June was 3.69 stars, which is just a little bit lower than last month. I read 2 books that I didn't really care for much at all, and then 2 that I was positive about but not blown away by, and then 4 that were between 4 and 5 stars that I really enjoyed. So yeah, compared to last month, that's kind of the same. My average was slightly higher than last month, but only by like, 0.16 stars. And last month was a little bit more spread out, but realistically, it's quite similar. I'm still waiting for my first 0.5 star book of the year. I'm sure it's coming, there's always one, but I wonder when, we'll see that. In terms of genres this month, I read 35% thrillers, 20% horror, 10% YA, mystery, literary, and short stories, and 5% sci-fi. And compared to last month, if you ignore the middle grade, which was so high due to a reading prompt I drew out, there are like 4 genres that cross over in both months and seem to be making an appearance in every single month. Thriller is the biggest for both months if you ignore middle fiction again, and I think it has been every previous month too. Horror is a lot higher this month, and I feel like that's only going to keep growing due to my growing interest in that genre, while YA is probably going to stay the same. I'm reading a lot less YA than I used to, so I'm kind of happy with it staying around 10%. Okay, so this section was previously based around page count, but I decided to switch it up, and instead I want to base this section around book pace. So Storygraph has this feature that characterizes books based on what people felt the pace of the book was. So I used that data to construct these graphs to break down the pace of the books I chose to read this month. So interestingly enough, this month it was a tie. I read a majority slow and medium paced books, both at 37.5%, while only 25% of my books were considered fast paced by the average reader. Comparing that to last month is a complete opposite. Last month I read 50% fast paced books, 40% medium, and only 10% slow paced. So it just goes to show how unpredictable my reading choices can be in this category. I'm not generally gravitating towards fast paced books every month it seems, but rather it changes. So I'll be interested to see how this changes over the next few months, considering this is the first time I've done it. Okay, now looking at reading moods, this month I read an overwhelming 35% mysterious, then 18% dark, 16% adventurous, 12% tense, 11% emotional, and only 8% reflective. If we combine mysterious, dark, and tense, which pretty much make up that thriller and horror section of my reading, that's like 65% I think, which is huge, but it does make sense I guess. Interestingly, comparing that to last month, you can look how similar these graphs are. That's something I've noticed. I thought it would be super interesting to track my reading moods, but it seems to be one of the graphs, it's really stuck. 5 out of the 6 moods here are the same as last month, with super similar percentages attached to them too. The only difference is challenging and reflective, which I mean could be considered adjacent categories in some circumstances. But yeah, these seem to be very similar month to month. And finally, my monthly reading habits graph. You can see this month was my lowest month in terms of books read and pages read. I did also only read 8 books in January, but I read a few more books that are a lot longer that month, so my page count was up a lot more. Hopefully this is like my lowest point and we only go up from here. We could call it mid-year fatigue, end of financial business year. I could probably make up excuses all day about why I read less this month, but honestly, I don't know why. It just kind of happens sometimes. You know how it is. Here's to hopefully some more populated reading months in the future than this month, if that makes sense. Alrighty, now that that's out of the way, let's talk about all of the books that I read last month. There's some in here that I'm really excited to talk about, and some in here that I really hated, so let's get into it. The first book that I'm really excited to talk about that I read just on like a whim last month, The Other Black Girl by Zakiya Dalila Harris. I read this book in a day, so I don't know when the last time I did that was. It's been a very long time, so I feel like that says it all. So good. This is like Devil Wears Prada meets like a Get Out style psychological thriller set in the publishing world, which just ticks so many boxes for me that I didn't even know were gonna be ticked. Like, oh my God. I went into this not knowing anything. I just picked it up when I went on a little getaway for the weekend. I got an advance copy from Hachette. That's why it looks like this. The actual cover's on the back. Well, this is the UK cover. The US cover looks a little bit different. But yeah, this is the proof edition. Instantly hooked, you guys. This has got to be one of the most refreshing and original thrillers that I've read in a long time. So I'll tell you a little bit more about it. This book follows Nella, who works as an assistant editor at Wagner Books, which is like this very conservative, mostly white publishing house in America. And she's the only black girl that works there until one day she's thrilled to find out that another black girl, Hazel, has been hired to work in the cubicle like next to her as another assistant editor. But straight away things seem really off between Nella and Hazel. Hazel seems to like be really cold towards her and backstabby, and it's a very weird dynamic. And then a series of really uncomfortable events elevate Hazel to like the office darling while Nella is left in the dust. Then these really weird, scary notes start popping up on Nella's desk telling her to leave publishing now. As the cover says, you can't really see publishing, but it's like there in like gloss. Yeah, this is definitely going to be one of my favorites of the year. I can already tell. Such an original and refreshing thriller. I just can't wait to recommend this to everyone and anyone. It was so good. And like I wasn't even planning on reading this, and I just happened to decide to pick it up, and it blew me away. It really blew me away. The next book that I read was Surrender Your Sons. Another yellow jacket. These are like half yellow jackets, which is interesting. This is a YA thriller about a group of teens who are kidnapped and sent to this like island conversion camp. This was actually a lot of fun. And not because these poor kids are sent to a conversion camp, just like very fun characters. And it was a really great YA thriller. Just like uncovering the secrets of the island and the conversion camp. I don't want to say too much. Stuff happens and I don't want to spoil it, but I really enjoyed this. I knew I was going to enjoy this when I picked this up. I've heard such good things. It's definitely dark. It has its roots in like a psychological thriller with some themes that ring really true to today to do with queer kids and conversion camps. And this book only spans like a few days, which I think was great. It's very fast paced. I think I gave this one 4.5 stars. The next book that I read was Everyone Dies Famous in a Small Town by Bonnie Sue Hitchcock. This is a collection of YA short stories. I don't often read short stories, let alone YA short stories, but this was fantastic. I was really worried I was going to get bored by jumping between a bunch of different short stories, but honestly, the way these weave together to form like this really nice mirage of like coming of age in a small town, just the things that happen. I have a weak spot for coming of age stories set in small towns, so this really like scratched that itch for me. I think anyone who enjoys coming of age stories would really enjoy this collection. It's really well written, and I love the way they weave together and just so heartfelt. I felt a lot of things reading this. But yeah, so all the stories are set across like the west coast of America in different towns, but they all kind of weave back and forth with characters coming in and out. In one story, you'll have a character appear from the last story, but also the story that's next. So you'll get a little glimpse of them before you read about them. It's really well done. And it makes for a really interesting read because you're like mapping all the characters as you go. And by the end, it all kind of comes together. Very good. I think I gave this one 4 stars. Really enjoyed it. Okay, the next book that I read was The Twisted Ones by T. Kingfisher. Guys, this was so boring. I hate to say it, but I slogged through this at a snail's pace. I honestly nearly didn't finish this. It's supposed to be like a horror psychological thing about a girl named Mouse who is asked by her dad to go and clean out her dead grandmother's house so they can put it on the market. When she gets there though, things are weird. Things in the woods around the house. Supposed to be creepy, but honestly, bored. I was bored. I was like falling asleep reading this. The annoying thing this book does is it relies on you being invested in this one like self-insert main character that doesn't really have any dimensions. For like half the book, you don't meet anyone for half the book, and it just, so slow. Also, nothing happens. Nothing creepy happens until you hit halfway. So I'm not invested enough in this one character that has no personality for half a book to like be satisfied with waiting that long for something to happen. I don't know, it just didn't work for me. And I was so disappointed. Even when the things started to get scary, I was like, is that it? Really? You could have done a little bit more. Yeah, I was super disappointed. I gave this on like 2 stars. Would not recommend. Sorry. Alrighty, the next book that I read was The Kind Worth Killing by Peter Swanson. This is my 3rd Peter Swanson book. 8 Perfect Murders, I loved. Every Value Break, I hated. And this one, somewhere in the middle. This was supposed to be Peter Swanson's best book, a lot of people told me, but I finished this book feeling like, is that all? Is that it? The Kind Worth Killing follows 2 strangers who meet at an airport bar and start to talk and divulge secrets that maybe they shouldn't have, and they come up with a plot to kill someone in one of the characters' lives who maybe deserves to be killed. Yeah, it's hard to explain the plot because it's a bit all over the place, and it works, but there's 2 female characters that are practically the same character, and they play a really important role, and it became a bit annoying that I couldn't distinguish them from each other. And the fact that they just acted so similar really irked me. I feel like we could have had a bit more dichotomy there that would have worked, but we didn't go for that. And this book is supposed to have a twisty ending, and by the end, I was kind of like, is that it? Yeah, I think I gave this on 3.5 stars. But thinking back on it, I don't know if it even deserves that. I might bump that down to 3. Yeah, it was like a well-plotted thriller, but I think I went in with really high expectations from what I'd heard, and this book just didn't meet those expectations for me. Okay, the next book that I read was American Psycho. This is like a modern classic now. When it came out in 1991, it was perhaps the most controversial book of all time, I'm gonna say. Just like the media engagement surrounding this book was insane. I made a whole video last month about this book and my experience reading it and designing a new cover and talking about the controversy around this book and different ways it was banned in different countries. Like, for example, in Australia, this book is not sold to minors and it is sold shrink wrapped. Obviously, I've taken the wrapping off now, but it's like covered in plastic. You have to unwrap, which I thought was really absurd. So yeah, you can check out that video if you want to go and see more about American Psycho. This is one of those books that is not enjoyable to read, but you just can't stop reading. Like, such vile, vulgar characters and really graphic descriptions. So it's satire, but in the most gruesome way, very graphic. So if you are okay with that and are okay with all of the trigger warnings that come with this book, there's like a whole page worth, then I would recommend giving it a go. It's just a lot to read. Okay, and the next book that I read was Sphere by Michael Crichton. Why did I read this old book? I don't even know. I just felt like it. I read Jurassic Park by Michael Crichton earlier this year and I really enjoyed it, so I wanted to read more of his stuff. This one sounded interesting, so I picked it up. And it was good. It was fun. It was like a cool like sci-fi read with some substance. It obviously hasn't aged well considering the technology it discusses here compared to now. This book was written like 30 years ago, I think. A while ago. Yeah, it was good. It was decent. It took some weird turns, but I was okay with that. I still had fun. So Sphere follows a group of scientists who are sent to investigate a strange spacecraft that has been found at the bottom of the Pacific Ocean. And when they get there, they find out that the spacecraft appears to be 300 years old, even though it has only just kind of appeared there. Like, it looks as if it's been there for 300 years, but like we know that it wasn't there yesterday. You get what I mean? It's a bit of like a conundrum. So yeah, it definitely kept me engaged for the whole time I was reading it, but just not as good as Jurassic Park. I sound like some 4-year-old kid who's obsessed with dinosaurs. Like, Jurassic Park rules and you can't tell me otherwise. And I'm wearing like a t-shirt that says like Raw or something. That's me. Okay, so the last book that I read this month was The Last House on Needless Street by Katrina Ward. This was not good, you guys. I was so wrong about this. I was so keen to read this. Blurbed by Stephen King. It has good reviews, but honestly, I thought it was so average. And it's funny because the exact same thing happened to me with Final Girls by Riley Sager. Blurbed by Stephen King. I hated it. So I think I need to stop trusting Stephen King's blurbs because they seem to be misleading me. Anyway, this is like a suburban thriller about a guy and his cat and his daughter who sometimes visits, and it's like supposed to be subversive and weird, and you're supposed to like not be able to figure out the ending, but I guessed it straight away, like the hidden family secrets and the mental illness tropes out the wazoo. Like, it was all there. Very, very cheesy. And the writing is so clunky and repetitive. It goes nowhere for ages, and it just feels like the ending is not warranted, and I just didn't come together for me, which doesn't mean it's a bad book. I just didn't like it for me. And I gave this 2 stars. I was very disappointed. But yeah, I really wanted to love this. Alrighty, so that's everything that I read in June. Let's move on to my TBR reaping for July. I'm sure you know, but if you don't, every month I draw out a little paper slippy thing from each of these jars. One of them has all of my unread books from my bookshelf in it. So I read one from there, and the other one has a reading prompt for the month. As you heard, I didn't do it last month. I rebelled, so I want to say that I'll do it this month, but I just don't know what future Angus is going to do. Let's hope he decides to pull through and do the reading prompt. Let's start with my every book on my bookshelf jar. This is actually getting quite low, which is amazing. It means my TBR is less overwhelming. Let's go for a purple slip. Shall we? This one. Okay. No, I don't want to, no. I don't want to read this. That's the thing. There's so many books in here that are so old now and just irrelevant that I just don't care about reading. And like I see it on the shelf, but then I see a book next to it that I actually do want to read, but I have to read this one. This is why future Angus doesn't do these things. You know, it's like revenge. Anyway, the book I drew out is Dorothy Must Die by Daniela Page. Yeah, this book came out ages ago. It was kind of big at the time, like a Wizard of Oz retelling, I believe. I don't really want to do it. I just don't really want to. I don't want to do it. I need like a get out of jail free card that I can just play and just not do what I'm supposed to do. But I guess I already played that last month, didn't I? This is like payback for not doing what I was supposed to do last month. Onto the other jar. This is getting low too. This one. Oh, interesting. Okay. So the reading prompt I drew out of my jar is read a book that Storygraph recommends. You know how like Storygraph, the reading app thing, gives you like recommendations when you fill out the form? Yeah, so I've got to do that. So I guess I'll do that and insert clip of me doing that here. Alrighty, so now we're going to do the Storygraph recommendation thing. I've never actually done this before. I guess I'll do this. Okay, so tell us about the kinds of books you like to read. Okay, so I like thriller, horror, crime. What else? Oh yeah, LGBTQ plus authors, political intrigue. Sure. What is startup stories? Oh, is that like business? No, not the economy. Fiction, I guess. Can I spell? I like literary fiction sometimes. YA, I like middle fiction. Can I write cozy crime? They're fun. That'll do for now. Update preferences. Let's see what they come up with. This will be interesting. Okay, thank you for telling us your reading preferences. I think I have to fill out this now as well. Okay, what are you in the mood for? I'm in the mood for something, kind of none of these. I want more, I want like tense. I want like crime filled. I guess funny, relaxing, sure. Any of the moods. Fast or medium. I think I need a fast-paced book. Fiction, please. Crime, fiction would be nice. Crime, young adult. Okay. Oops. Yes. Okay. I won't exclude any. I don't really care about the page length, so I'll just tick them all. And I guess it shouldn't show me books in my TBR or books that I own, because I want something new. So let's go. Let's see what you've got. Yes, lots to think about. Oh, okay. Here we go. What are these? Oh my god. So I guess I get to pick one of these because there's a few. First we have 12 Nights of Rotterhouse. Missing duration info. Okay, we're gonna skip that. R.L. Stein. Not really in the mood for a Goosebumps, so no. What the hell is this? Twice Shy. No. The Radleys. Oh, Matt Haig, he wrote The Midnight Library. I didn't read that, but apparently it's good. I don't know what that is. Zombie Ohio, no thanks. Dead Religion, no. Oh my god, these are all kind of... Oh my god. Why is Red Russia keep coming up? Oh my god. Oh, yes! Yes! Patrick DeWitt, okay, we've got it. I'm gonna do this one. Yes. Yes! Okay. I've wanted to read Patrick DeWitt's books for ages. He did The Sisters Brothers and he's got a bunch of other books and they're supposed to be really fun, literary, but funny and good. So I'm gonna read this one, French Exit. Let's put that on the TBR. Easy peasy. That was good. Okay, I'm glad. I'm glad we got something out of that. Alrighty, so now that that's out of the way, I've got a few other books that I want to read this month. I'm actually really dying to read these books. I've really condensed my TBR for this month because I seem to not be following it anymore. So there's only 3, and they all actually happen to be advanced reading copies I've received from publishers. That's something. Let's get into it. So the first book I really want to read is Velvet Was the Night by Sylvia Moreno Garcia. This is a proof. As I said, this book comes out in September here. I don't know if it's August in the US, but September in Australia. I have a copy. I'm so excited. This is probably like one of my most anticipated books of the year. So this is really exciting for me. I didn't even know I was getting a review copy, and it just kind of showed up from Hachette. Probably going to be one of the first books I read this month. I really enjoyed Mexican Gothic last year, so I'm super excited to read this one. So this is set in the 1970s in Mexico City. It's a neo-noir thriller about Mate, who works as a secretary when one day her neighbor disappears. And so she's like on the trail to figure out what happened to her neighbor, and she meets this other guy who is also trying to figure out what happened to the same woman. So the neighbor disappeared in like suspicious circumstances, and the two get caught up in a complicated series of events that link to the political unrest of the time. It's supposed to be quite different from Sylvia's other books, but I love neo-noir, and I love Sylvia's writing, and her characters are fantastic, so I'm sure I'll really enjoy this. I really can't wait to jump into this. I'm super excited. The next book that I'm really keen to read is Animal by Lisa Taddeo. This is the highly anticipated fiction debut from the author of Three Women, which was like a non-fiction literary hit a few years ago now, I think, 2 years ago maybe. This is like the proof copy. Oh, there you go. There's the title on the back. This book is actually out now. It came out in June, so I just never got around to reading the reader copy. It follows Joan, and she's on like some sort of anti-hero type revenge quest, I think. It's not entirely clear from the blurb, and I don't want to spoil myself, so I don't know too much about this. I know it follows her backwards and forwards throughout her life and the terrible things that she's both been a victim of and a perpetrator of. So yeah, she's a bit of a controversial character, and I've heard really mixed things about this. People either love it or hate it. So I kind of love books like that where it's so divisive. So I'm really interested to see what I think of this. A lot of people I really trust really enjoyed this book. I think I'm gonna love it, but we'll see. It is like a literary book, but I think I'm in the mood for that. So yeah, probably like the second book I'm gonna be reading this month. But yeah, also really keen for this one. Onto a more lighter tone. The last book that I wanna read this month is Dial A for Aunties by Jess Q. Satano. This is another book that's already out. I just have a review copy that I just never picked up, but this book has gotten so much buzz, and on the news that it's going to be adapted. I'm not sure if it's a TV show or a film, but I really want to read it. This has gotten so much buzz. I really like the Australian cover. I think I like it more than the US cover. The US cover is a lot more contemporary, whereas this looks like a pop art comic style, which I feel like matches the comedic tones of the book. From what I've heard, Dial A for Aunties is like equal parts a murder mystery and a rom-com. It follows Madeline Chan, who accidentally ends up killing her blind date. So then what does she do? Of course, she calls up her meddlesome aunties to help her hide the body. It's supposed to be really fun and fresh. I can see it being adapted by like Johnny M. Chu. I feel like he would do a really good job of this. Yeah, I've heard really good things. And apparently this book takes a really good deep dive into Chinese Indonesian culture, because that is the heritage of the main character and the author. So yeah, I'm really keen to see what I think. Alrighty, so that's it. That's my TBR. Look how little it is. Isn't this amazing? Plus the book that Storygraph recommends to me. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know if you've read any of these and what you think. And yeah, I'll talk to you next time in another video. Bye.